Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the workshop as ever. It is truly phenomenal to have you here and be able to share this journey, because I know for sure that I am going to be learning a lot today, and I am honored that you're here. We're working on a KRIS Damascus steel feather pattern, no less. Damascus steel dagger. This is a wavy blade. It was tough to grind. We got it. It was unbelievably time-consuming to hand sand, but we've gone and done it. This transition has been difficult, but we're working hard to make sure that it's good. And speaking of that, we've got to get to some hard work, so thank you for joining me. I hope that you have hopped on over to alecsteelshop.com and got yourself one of these awesome thingamadoo shirts for that thing that you're measuring that you never know how to explain. But on to the work. Okay, so we've got it mounted up sideways here in the vise, and the step now is going to be cleaning up this transition into our guard itself. This needs to be a very neat transition, of course, because if we don't do it right now, then we will have just wasted all the time we put into the rest of it, because mistakes here are the easy ones for me to overlook, and then it would end up making a bad piece. Right, so you see right in here at that transition, you'll see some deep gouges. Now those deep 1/100th of a millimeter probably. But there are some gouges right there that we do need to get out. Those were put in with a file. Now, I know it seems there are also some right here. I know it seems counterintuitive, but even though they were put in with the file, the only way that I can get them out is also with a file. This is a second cut. I'm very pleased that we relieved a little more of the temper. This is a second cut file. Look at that pattern showing through. You see that? Yeah, look at that. You can see the pattern just from a file stroke. This is a second cut file. Files come in different cuts. I'm no expert on files. Like I said in the recent build, I don't even know how to use a file properly. But you'll get a bastard cut file, a second cut file, and then finishing files. I'm sure down in the comments you'll be able to learn a little bit more about it. But this second cut file means it's less aggressive, and it means that we actually get a pretty good surface finish from that little filing there. And so now I take a little bit of 120 grit sandpaper, and we're going to start sanding that. Right, we're getting there. A little more work to do with the 120, and then we can start moving up. Okay, there we go. That's 120. We are going to do this side all the way to 400. We're going to flip it over. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. And then we're going to clean up these faces, and we'll be making progress. These transitions have now been done, but of course it just scratches up that face there, the guard face. So I'm now going to come in and we're going to do some strokes with some 400, making sure that we cover the whole surface and get a consistent grit scratch the whole way down, which is obviously very difficult. I'm going to go from one side to the other, and hopefully this really does look quite beautiful. I'm quite confident that these faces here, these sides of our ricasso, have a very clean finish. Took some time, took some doing, it always does, but it's going to be so worth it. So worth it, especially because we are just a few moments away from being done with our transition, as we gently put a grit scratch in this face here. Now, it's a slight crosshatch, just because of us scratching here and then back out and us now coming back across. There's no way for me to blend it, I don't think, or at least I can't think of the best way to blend it. So without scratching our ricasso, I'm backing off the ricasso, and I'm going to put some scratches in this direction with our 400, just making sure that it's all clean. Come around this way, and I'm going to do the same again on this side here before finishing it with some more straight scratches all the way up here, down and out, all the way up and down and out. I was doing that with WD-40. I've been experimenting between soapy water and WD-40, and I haven't quite worked out what is better. So I've been using a little bit of them both, and I still haven't come to a decision on that. Same on this side here. That took some doing, but we've only gone and done it. We have a nice face, and that's ready for etch at that finish. I have no idea how that just got done, but it's got... Oh my goodness. It's time for the keyhole integral handle. Oh boy. So the first step again is going to be good old... Blue Tycoon, how I missed you so... Okay, come on, Alec, let's go. Whew. Blue Dykem. That's too much blue Dykem. Blue Dykem. Oh, come on, just go. Goodness gracious. Come in with our height gauge, we're gonna find the top, 30.61. We're gonna use this to gently bring this down to 15.3. Give it a tighten, give it a scribe. We're gonna flip it around, we're gonna do the same thing. Just double check that that scribe line is central, and it's not. So something went wrong. I have no idea why that happened. Another thing that's weird is the lines taper. So this makes me wonder, has this moved in the quench, which is, why am I doing this so much today? It's weird. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh my goodness, yes. So what has happened is that this has moved in the quench, meaning that we have 30.51 here, 31.67 there at the back. This has moved so much. This has moved a millimeter out that way in the quench, which is meaning that when we lay it on these surfaces that we wanted as our reference surfaces, we get that weird split line that's tapering. That is super interesting and annoying, because how do we reference? Well, I think the best thing that we can do to reference is going to be to take our template here and try and find the middle of those two lines. Okay, now we do another scribe line using our template. I'm going to flip it over, we're going to do all four sides, and then we're going to run into the grinding room. We're going to take a 120 grit, ripped down 1-inch wide belt on the platen that we made a little cutout just so that we could reach in here, and we are going to grind. We're going to grind that in, split that scribe line, and go on to the next step, which is going to be forming the handle. First, let's do small layout, and then on to the grinding. So the keyhole has been filed. I think it's pretty close to what it is that we need. I think that we're pretty even on both sides. I struggled with getting my file to go perfectly straight, so I don't know if more tinkering needs to be done with that a little later. But for now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a test fit up, but not with this. This is the African blackwood that we're gonna use, but African blackwood is expensive, and I wanna save it for the final handle. And what I definitely know is I'm not gonna do a good enough job with the first attempt. And so, we're gonna take this. This is some oak. We're going to cut off a piece. We're going to rough shape the negative. Is it the negative or the positive? I don't know. But we're going to rough shape what we need to fit in there. Then we're going to go into the grinder. We're going to rough it out some more. We're going to start working out how it is that we get it accurate and right fitting. Right, so I'm taking a trick, that's how you say it, trick, T-R-I-C-K. I'm taking a trick from the New York City CNC, NYC CNC channel, from John Saunders' videos, where they talk about how they fixture parts in their CNC mills with super glue. What they do is, instead of just super gluing the parts straight onto their fixture plate, they'll put some masking tape down first and then super glue it. And that seems to be pretty smart, because then instead of having to deal with crusty super glue on the part, it's then just on the masking tape. I think that's the premise. I may be completely wrong, but you should check them out on YouTube because they make awesome videos. What we're now going to do, we're going to take a couple of drops of super glue, we're gonna take our handle, we're gonna lay this in there, roughly centered, and we're gonna hold down until the super glue sets. Oh no! Oh no! No! I super glued my, I got you. I'm so funny. Gotcha! So with that super glued on, the hope is we can scribe our, oh, this is difficult. Oh my goodness, scribing a keyhole is not easy. The hope is we can scribe our keyhole. It's not very easy though, because it wants to just follow the grain instead of the scribe. So I've got to be very careful. It comes off line there as it follows the grain, so I'm going to be really careful and make sure that when I grind to the outermost scribe lines. The keen-eyed amongst you will notice that this is a TIG welding electrode that I ground, because I was able to get a very much finer point than my typical scriber, my normal scriber. So hopefully we can be a little more accurate with our marks. I'm also going to take a Sharpie and run it around that corner there, just so we have a nice clear ballpark to see roughly where our scribe is. Okay, and abracadabra. There we go, it's off. I just peeled off the masking tape off our part, and there was no super glue stuck to it. However, on the wood there was, but I'm not worried about it in this particular case, because we're gonna be getting rid of that wood anyway. Okay, so what we've done is we have rough ground our piece, and then we took the vise and we squeezed it in. Now it didn't shear very cleanly, but hopefully that gives us something to work to a little closer for the final size. You can see that we're about to dimension here. However, on the on this side over there and around this circle, we need more work to do. Have more work to do. Right, let's see how she fits this time. Right, so now we'll look at it. There is light coming through on one side, which means that I've gone too far in one area, right in there. And there is some on the ends. So what that's telling me is, now we're gonna keep going. This is our test piece. What that's telling me is I need to go a little easier on the belt grinder between my fit-ups, so I'm not removing too much material. Out of a matter of interest, I want to measure the gap here, 32.49. Before and after we remove the wood, 31.86. So that spreads out a lot as we apply pressure to it, which means that if we go off these readings, we got to make sure that we've got a decent amount of pressure when it is, I don't know what that means. I've never done this. I don't know what I'm trying to say. All I can tell you is we're going to go now to a 120 grit belt, and we're just going to sliver a little bit more off this, and then we're going to take it to a file. Now let me tell you, that is interesting. That press fit on the oak, it just shears right off. This isn't what we're going to use. I don't know how the African blackwood is going to react to us using this as a shear press fitting against it. I don't think the answer is shearing off material. I may very well be wrong. I think the answer is a little more due diligence in my fit-up. So this little test piece has been very educational. It's told me, one, I need to make a second smaller platen, but with sharp edges for the grinder, because the grinder couldn't properly hit in here. So we're going to be doing it on a 1-inch platen that I'm going to make up. 2, sand a little further away, and then we're going to go to chisels and hand files to get a better fit. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on another episode here. I hope that you've enjoyed. I hope you're enjoying the process. It's been masses of fun. I hope that you go grab yourself an It's Not Stupid If It Works shirt or a heating and beating shirt. I've got one of those underneath. Spring is approaching, but it's still a little nippy. So it's nice to have the long sleeve, you know, put it over the top t-shirt, keep a little bit warmer while you're working, and it's a fantastic way to support the show. So head on over to alecsteelshop.com, get yourself some merchandise. I would be extremely grateful. It's been a pleasure as always. I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow on the next episode. Bye-bye.